Well, hey there, gamers. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you my climbing I have added to my game. That's somewhat Breath of the Wild kind of style. Uh, it's not quite finished yet, but simply I got a script working, and I wanted to show you. Right now my walking animations are broken because the way I changed my raycasts to work with this wall uh, climbing. But anyways, let's get to it. Oh, oh boy, we're stuck to the wall. I made it that we can look up and down, but we can't look left and right, which I probably will be able to make it look left and right a little bit. Right now you can see that I don't have any animations for this. That's one thing I gotta get to, but the basics are here. And you kind of see that I somewhat can smoothly go like between these walls. And I put little things in the way here to stop me. I can't quite get on top of this object because the raycast that's attaching me to this wall is directly in the middle of the player, which isn't low enough for the player to get on top of something. So I'm probably gonna place the spot where the raycast comes out at the very bottom at the feet again, which should make the walking work once again. I don't quite know why it's broken. It should be working. Everything else was working. I'm able to walk and move around. But with this wall crawling, I can stick to pretty much anything and it adjusts. But you kind of see with this wall, there's kind of like some sort of stuttering because we're getting close to the edge. And then when we cross, it's a very jolting instant change, which is kind of annoying. And also, climbing on things that are real jagged like this doesn't quite work all that great. Yeah, it's not all that good because let's try to get to a spot where we just get kind of like that. Like that's not cool. And you sometimes detach like that. See how it's just glitching out. It's because right now it's like not quite able to touch, but then it does touch. Not the greatest ideal. Oh, and also the camera's super high up now because I changed the position of the player's orientation, or not orientation, origin. The origin, like the exact spot for this script right now. I think I'll only have it work with certain objects you can climb, like these kind of walls, or more flat walls like this, because this works great. Because essentially the raycast is hitting the wall, and it's finding out which direction that wall is facing, and we, the player, rotate and face that direction. Also, and if you kind of see, we stay upright the whole time. We're not like facing the wall like this I am doing with the mouse. We're not, the whole player's not rotating on all three axes. I think that's what you call them. Because for some reason it gets a little glitchy when I do that. And just the way the code is working, I think it's more ideal. It's just gonna work for particular walls that you can go up and down, and there'll be little obstacles or something you have to climb and get around. Right now, the third person's also working. The player faces the wall the whole time, and you can freely look around at the camera. Just gotta figure out the animation, because the animation's gonna be interesting, because I haven't done this before, where the animation has to, as you're climbing up, has to stop when you stop, and then play a reverse when you go down. So it's gonna be the same animation that's gonna go play forward and then reverse. as you go down. But not too sure about going left and right, because yeah, you would realistically have the player kind of lean a little bit, I would think, going the direction that they're going. So maybe making one way is reversed and the other is playing forward, because the player walking, which is working right now, it blends for animations. Oh, it's broken. I guess I'll get to showing you the code. So I would like to share it, and also down in the description I will share links of the YouTube videos where I found a lot of the scripting. But I don't think I not be able to find this the coding I found on just browsing the web. YouTube though, it's easy to find. Oh, thank goodness for YouTube tutorials. Without simply, I called it player climber. If that's even how you would spell it, I don't know. We're getting the player movement controller here because we're needing to tell it when we are touch the wall or not, so it stops the regular player movement and switches to the new. Right here is where we activate our surface alignment thing. How we're telling it that it's grounded and the player's jumped off the wall. And if we have jumped, then turn back on gravity and the player isn't climbing anymore, so the player controller knows that it can just operate as normal. Raycast info, or people typically just call this hit, but the person I watched the tutorial called it info, so that's what I went with. I like to follow tutorials exactly, so if I have to go back and rewatch and try to figure out something, I'm not getting confused by naming stuff differently. Here we're getting a vector, which it's a vector 3, and the vector 3 is simply 3 numbers, which could be for like rotation or position. We're getting the player's direction or whatever. Did I tell you I don't know quite much about coding? I learned it mostly from YouTube and browsing the internet. But here we got a for int I thing. It goes like between this number right here, which is a 4, but you get feed it a number and it like goes through it or whatever. And the 4 is giving us 4 raycasts, which we're calling a check hit. And we're using the player's transform, offset, blah blah blah. Sorry. And then we're using another vector here, and plus equal. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we're simply adding the vector, and then we're normalizing it to something and adding. What was this? Oh yeah, it sets it to 0, which I don't know what that quite does. And then you can offset the offset angle, and we're giving it a 90 degrees of aiming it towards the player's position, which all this code right here does is give us 4 more raycasts that are shooting out on the player's sides to assist and help with the rotation of the character. That as we get closer to the edge here between these 2 walls, the dot in the center screen doesn't even touch the wall, the edge of the wall. before we rotate and face the other one, and that's because of for raycasts. They're all kind of like acting like one. So the base raycast that's shooting forward, which is what we are facing the object that we are attached to, this wall, and as we get closer to the edge, the other four raycasts are helping the rotation essentially to smooth it out and make it work a little better for inside walls, kind of like this, which right now this code is working really good for. But for rounded stuff, it's not working all that great. I kind of can see that when as we rotate around this object, the player isn't quite staring directly at the spot it is attaching to, is because the four raycasts aren't touching. But essentially, we're using that to help the main raycast right here to check the distance or whatever. The four raycasts, they're a little shorter. It seems to work better if they're slightly shorter, so that's set at 1. The main raycast is set at 1.2. And right here, what is climbable or whatever, essentially, which is what do you call it? A layer. So like all these layer stuff. If we go to objects or whatever, you can click on the object and go up here, look through the default, and click on something that you want, set it to layer, and then if on the player list here we go down to here it is, you can just select and unselect things that you want it to attach to or not to attach to. So that's really nice. Blah, blah, blah. But as we have here, we're immediately turning gravity off and saying that we are climbing, and we have our player controller here getting our we're getting our we are getting our horizontal and vertical directions, getting a vector 2 input here, square to circle, whatever that means, new vector, and then we're putting in those two in here. So those are attached to that, and this is the scripts that we use to move the player using those directions or whatever with the set speed here. It's very simple. And down here, this script, this is what's making the player rotate and face the object that we're attaching to, which this code, pretty much with the gravity off and just having this on, the player does pretty much stick to the object, but not quite as well. So I searched and found this code down here to make the player more stick to the object that we're looking at using the raycast point. Again, we're finding the raycast point, and then we're making an offset hit point, normalizing it, whatever that means, which I've removed this and it seems to make the code not work all that great. So we're offsetting it by 1, and so that means we're not like directly attaching the player to the spot where the raycast is hitting, because that would mean we're like inside the object pretty much. So we have to make a bit of an offset to make the player not do that. Yeah, make it more of a position where we want the player to look like climbing it, which right now is a little too close. You kind of saw in the gameplay, we're like really hovering far away from the wall. We'll get it closer and work on it as I do the animations. But gain the position, variable, the point, and this is the code we're executing all this, whatever you like to call it. And we're making the position, blah blah blah. And we're simply ignoring the Y because we're not using that. Same thing up here, I believe. We're not using the Y because that gives me some real wonky rotation, which just breaks the character, the player. And so essentially we're only rotating on the X and Z, which is all we need. And that's pretty much it. Down here, for some reason we're also setting the gravity back to true, and the player climbing falls. Oh, and this code is necessary or helpful for making the player movement a lot smoother for this coding. This is because this is what we're using to move the player up and down, left and right on the wall. And this apparently helps. I recommend watching the video where I got this from. But I'm sure a lot of you are just probably just going to copy this code, play with it, see if it works for you, and hopefully it does help. But I'll show you the player here. His body shape is right now is just a capsule, and it's a little too tall and a bit slender. But the characters are pretty slender too. But you see here this thing, which is the center of the player, and that's where the raycasts are shooting out. Kind of like that blue line there that's where the raycasts are shooting out. And ideally, I should probably put it back down by the feet, but I also need to move the actual player body, because if I move that down of the hierarchy of the whole character here, you see that the center is still right there, but the player's lower. But essentially, I need to rearrange and get the player position, the parents of the whole hierarchy, whatever, at the feet. Same thing with the body here, which we can just take the hip. The hip, which is the next thing down of the hierarchy for the player, and I can just move the whole player upwards, so that way I can have the main character more closer at the feet and the very parents, the roots of the whole tree here. Blah blah blah. Anyways, enough rambling. I'm sure I'm gonna cut out a lot of this, and hopefully this video isn't so insufferable or whatever. And maybe you learned a little something and got to see a little progress in my game here. I haven't done much because I just been busy with work and other life stuff, and it's kind of hard to find the time, to do this stuff. But I got, if I want to do it, I gotta make the time. I shouldn't really have too many excuses. I'd like to add a stamina bar to for the wall climbing. I probably won't make it like the Breath of the Wild style, how it's a little circle thing. Even though that works pretty good, and it's nice to have it in the center of the screen, so it's easier to know when it's just about to run out. You can probably save yourself instead of having it in the bottom corner or something. So maybe I'll have it physically on the player. I'd like to do something like that in a Dead Space, how you can see the health bar on the spine of the player or the character. Have more in-world stuff like that. That would be good instead of cluttery UI. I would like to avoid that much as possible. I'm rambling again. Thanks again. Thanks again for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.